Leanne makes a really good point about FGM, and that is, can we stop being embarrassed about it, please?
Absolutely.
You know, we're sitting here, you and me, we are going to talk about ladies' genitalia. End of story. I'm not embarrassed about it.
I'm not.
So we've got to get, as Leanne would say, we've got to get it out there and stop worrying about it. She makes some really good points at the beginning of her piece where she said all of us would accept that it's not right for somebody to stub out a cigarette on a child. We'd all say that's wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'd all say it was wrong if a child was abused with a weapon or beaten. So we've got to start accepting that female genital mutilation, FGM, it's a crime in this country.
Absolutely. Actually, it's child abuse.
It is.
Whether or not it's hidden in communities, whether or not it's performed in Nigeria, for example, as was with a blog that I recently wrote. I think absolutely we need to forget about what it's called and what it is. It is child abuse.
It is.
Female genital mutilation is harmful to children on every level, whether or not it's psychological, whether or not it is in terms of their future harm, in terms of what will happen to them if they haven't actually gone through that process or they're used to cultures and religion and those type of things. I think we need to stop keeping it hidden.
Yeah.
I think we need to now start talking more and more about it.
Yeah.
Now, on that note, Nigel, I wrote a blog, and it's a few months ago, but I think it's still valid. March last year, we had legislation coming out in relation to female genital mutilation.
Well, in this country.
In this country.
Okay.
And actually, it made us as professionals more accountable in terms of identifying and responding to female genital mutilation, and actually closely working with the police. And I think particularly in her video and on the Channel 4 interview that she did, actually pointed it out, that the police play a really, really important role in this, but it's also about educating people and actually being aware in terms of what's happening out there. Now, last year, July in particular, we know that the court saw, or actually granted an order for 3 Nigerian girls that was meant to be taken over to Nigeria, where at the same time, Nigeria actually banned FGM, or female genital mutilation.
Hang on, Marissa, what did this High Court order, I presume it was quite a High Court,
What did
it do?
They prohibited those children going over. Yes,
right, okay.
Absolutely.
Well, those orders are quite new.
Yeah.
So it was brilliant to see them being used. The other thing that was new last year, I think, it's a change in terms of some professions having, so the word mandatory became part of the parlance, so to speak. Yeah. Mandatory reporting in relation to FGM. Could you just talk the guys out there through what's mandatory reporting and what's it going to do and who's it applied to?
Well, actually, it applies to any professional, if I'm honest, in terms of safeguarding, but there's a whole list in terms of specific people that's been identified, such as teachers, their legal duty, GPs, pediatricians, actually going through
what about you as a social worker? Are they covered?
Yeah, of course.
So this man, you have to do it by law.
You have to.
What happens if you don't?
It's a legal duty.
What happens if you don't?
What happens if you don't? If you don't, well...
You're breaching your legal duty.
I think so, and actually, as a professional being responsible for safeguarding children, I would say, why wouldn't you?
Well, I agree,
actually, you know, we all are responsible, and I know it's the old cliche of safeguarding is everybody's business, but actually, with female genital mutilation and child abuse, it's such an important issue, and it's remained so hidden for so many years. I think whether or not it's your religion, whether or not it's in part of your culture, if you're in the UK, and especially with what the law is actually now saying to us, if you're a UK citizen being taken abroad, or actually if there's any knowledge that will be performed on you, it is a crime.
So you wrote the blog.
Yeah.
So we've kind of touched on it. We're going to touch on 4 types in a minute, people, because there's known as type 1 to 4 FGM. So we want to touch on that for a bit of education for those of you who may not be too familiar. You could do that. You wrote this blog and did a lot of research around it. I think there was a story, wasn't there, a true story in and around the blog that you wrote about. Can you just talk about
the true story was about those Nigerian
girls who were about to go. And I know you've dealt with a case, which we won't talk about on Periscope, when you were practicing as a social worker in London.
Many, but in particular, a very, very serious case. And I think quite often people out there think about puberty, or young girls reaching puberty from teen, from the age of teen, and that is probably the triggers that you need to look out for. But I've dealt with a baby where the parents actually wanted to perform FGM, female genital mutilation, on a baby. And I think it just shows us as a society, but also where we are with dealing with certain things in child abuse. Actually, it's all age ranges. Right. It's not just focusing on adolescents or those 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, or 12-year-olds.
Yeah, I don't want to put you on the spot, but very briefly, because we really ought to cover it. It's quite old-fashioned now just to think it was about puberty.
Oh no.
So let's do the 4 types for the guys and girls that are watching. The 4 types of FGM. Go.
Well, number 1, type 1 basically is where they remove their clitoris.
Yeah.
Type 2 is where they would remove the labia. And 3 is obviously where there's infibulation, which is about stitching up, like Leanne actually calls it in her interview. And in type 4 is all sorts of things being done. Piercings and
damage.
Absolutely, to the genitalia. So I think just hearing that and just the 4 types, actually it's quite shocking that those type of things are taking place, and the harm that children suffer, or the trauma as a result, must be excruciating, I think.
But there's a big but here. I don't know how many of the people watching tonight have heard of breast rolling. Breast rolling is another practice that I view, you view as horrendous, but it's done in a culture, in cultures, where the thinking of those cultures is actually, I almost hate to say it, it's well intentioned in terms of the cultural practice. I know breast rolling is, and it's horrendous, we won't go into it tonight. So there is a discussion here around mums doing this to their own daughters, females, thinking actually that they're doing the right thing culturally. So there is this, I'm not supporting it, I'm not, but there is this debate. There's no point hiding it.
No, I think it's passed on from generation to generation, quite often within communities and within cultures in particular. Females are the ones performing that. It's almost like a ceremony and a celebration. What they want to do is celebrate the virginity of girls. There's other things they celebrate as well, but I think it's females generally performing that. However, within Egypt, for example, we know there's some men that's performed female genital mutilation. So it's not just gender specific.
But majority is, isn't it?
The majority is. I think for me, when I did my research for the blog in particular, what I saw, and actually quite shocking, was the amount of referrals that the UK had in relation to female genital mutilation. The other bit for me was actually 6,500 referrals, I know it's shocking, have been received by certain places, or there's data that's available in relation to that. And that's
from in London, though.
Yeah, that's
just London, 6,500.
That's just London. And that's based on the Violence Against Women reports that was issued. So that's quite shocking. And actually, whilst I'm saying there's no awareness about certain things, clearly some people have been performing or doing their legal duty in order to refer certain cases to certain places.
So let's get really blunt now. 6,500 reports, contacts, call them what you like, in London, and a lot more across the UK. How many prosecutions since the law came in?
As far as I'm aware, unfortunately, no prosecutions have been made.
That's my understanding. As of today, none. 0. Whatever language you want to say it in, we haven't had any. Now, there's lots of reasons for that.
We have a question that's come in. What can we do to raise awareness and work effectively with
we'll get
families?
on to that in a minute. Good question.
Good
Sorry,
question.
couldn't see who that came from. Thanks to all the people who joined tonight. Really good response. And I've seen some other stuff coming in. As I've said before, unless I peer very closely with my glasses on, I can't see it. That's why the roofer leans across and sees it. So we've had 0 prosecutions. We've got thousands now of contacts. Lots of reasons for that. We've got mandatory reporting that was brought in, and there's a real big discussion by some professionals who, and I've got to say, I have a view on mandatory reporting. That's not for tonight either. So we're in a place where we are trying to raise awareness, as the last question came up on the screen.
We are. I think what we've seen more and more is actually children. In Leanne Pook's interview with Channel 4, for example, you have young people from certain cultures educating some cultures within the UK.
Yeah.
Now that's quite good. The other bit in terms of education is actually raising awareness in terms of not just culturally or religion-wise, actually what it means in terms of it, young people going through FGM, or even adults. Actually, it's not just to do with adolescents or children. It's adult women before marriage that will go through FGM, and actually what it means, and actually in relation to Leanne, for example, she said
Hang on, guys, I've got something going on with my phone here. Hang on, 2 seconds, everyone.
She said, excuse me,
Excuse
it's Nigel
sure
getting a phone call. Actually, in relation to Leanne Pook's video, for example, where she mentioned that it takes longer for someone that's gone through in tribulation, for example, where they've been stitched up, to go to the toilet.
Yeah.
I mean, just raising awareness. There's women that actually had that conversation with Leanne or some of her people did not realise that is not the norm. She thought, because she's been through the process, she's done this all her life, that actually this is a normal this is not normal circumstances. It's not.
It's not. It's not.
So I think more and more needs to be done in terms of family, raising awareness. It is a difficult issue. It's very hidden still because of the religion, because of cultures, and even within the UK.
So we got to try, as Leanne, DCI in Bristol was saying, we've got to get, and she's working really hard.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Please watch it. I was really taken with it. And so we've got to educate in those communities, without being too judgmental. We've got to get the next generation, the children, the voice of the children, as you said, hashtag VOC, voice of the child. We've got to get them to understand that this is abuse. But we've also, a bit contentious, I suppose, we've got to get professionals to start thinking more about this. And you and I both know from your profession, my old profession, the places we work in now across the UK, not every professional, not every social worker, every police officer who's on duty at the moment, or those that aren't, know the 4 types. They don't really think about it.
No, I don't think they need to know it.
No, but they got to know about it.
I think they need to know about the triggers and the signs and the responses that's required.
Mm-hmm.
Police officers, obviously, at the moment, and based on what they can do, there's a protection order based on the new legislation. So if there's any concerns or any knowledge within any school, for example, maybe it's a young person that's all of a sudden mentioning to a teacher, I'm going to go abroad for whatever reason, and the parents are taking that young person out of school, for example. There are triggers, and I'm not saying obviously look for those triggers all the time, but actually there are some stuff that we need to look out for a bit more clearly and carefully, because those children might be taken abroad, they might be undergoing that type of performance on them, and it's not acceptable.
No.
And actually it's now against the law.
Yeah, but it's a bit like all abuse, isn't it? Your own professional practice, you should always almost be tuned to it and be aware that when you see the triggers, I'll just challenge that, I'll be curious. A bit of professional curiosity goes a long way.
Absolutely, and I think for us as social workers, I can say when I was working in practice in social work, I quite often within my teams wanted to know if I had a midwifery referral coming through and the mum obviously or maybe from the hospital is going into labour, I wanted to know, is she the only one that's actually had FGM performed on her, or whether or not there's other children that had any FGM or female genital mutilation performed on her, or actually has the mum asked to be re-infibulated, because those are the triggers that we need to look out for. Because it's so cultural, so religion-wise, but actually there are people out there as well that do not want to be going through that same type of process again. It's quite traumatic for the adult, it's quite traumatic for the children. I don't think, I just don't think it's needed or necessary.
So there we have it.
Yeah.
That was female genital mutilation.
Absolutely. do read our blog. It's part of the Harmful Cultural Practices series on shared vision, and you can find it on www.nipsharedvision.uk. You can follow us on Twitter. We are doing weekly periscopes on different matters. And our videos are being recorded, so you can also go on our site under the Engage tab and you'll find that as well.
Yeah, and please get involved. Next week, I expect, because I think he's watching, Gwenton, get yourself back here. It's time we move back to some gang stuff, talking about serious youth violence next week. What we would like to say, because there's no shortage of subject matter in terms of vulnerable people, and Marissa and I spend our lives in and around this subject matter. If you guys who regularly book onto Periscope, or you follow us on Twitter or on our Facebook site or anywhere really on the social media, if you want us particularly to talk about one issue on a Periscope one week, then put it in.
Yeah,
put
absolutely.
us in a suggestion. I have no idea what that says, Marissa. Somebody's asking a question or someone's joined.
No, Whitley Boy has joined. Hello, welcome Whitley Boy. Guys, so this will be available on replay, but it will also be available on Periscope, of course, for 24 hours. If you want to have a look at it again, or you've missed some parts, just go onto our website and you'll be able to view the whole video. Yeah. So as of now, that's probably all I have to say on the FGM subject matter.
But as we always say, because these are difficult issues, there may well be, because we don't know who's watching and we don't know who picks this up afterwards, and we know a lot of people do, which is great. If you are a young woman, a girl, or you're a worried relative that you feel this may be going on and you want to talk to someone, there are professionals out there in the UK and probably elsewhere who you can turn to. Do not sit there, please, and just let this happen.
No.
The big issue here is this has got to be talked about. This is abuse of children and young people, and they have a right not to have this happen to them. They have a right to a voice to say, no, actually, I don't choose this.
Yeah.
So if you do know you want help, probably, as normal, start with a doctor, start with your GP, or a professional that you trust. But please don't sit there and bottle it up, because it's abuse.
No, absolutely.
Brilliant. Thank you, Marissa.
No, thank you, Nigel, as ever. Watch us next week. There will be a new topic that we will advertise. For now, good night.
Good night,
Have
everyone.
a good evening.
Cheers
Bye.
now. Bye-bye.